Let me try that one again. Welcome back to Fine Fit People, everybody. My name's Grant Goes, and today we're going to talk more fitness. We're going to help you develop and better your fitness business, your fitness career for longevity. And that's what this is all about. Today we're going to talk about bad habits that trainers have and how you can avoid them. Knowing that there are so many trainers coming into the industry, they always look up to role models, to different people, and they see them doing certain things. And a lot of these things, to be very honest, is actually detrimental to your career. So we're going to bring in Amar, who's going to give us his experience of the last 8 years. In fact, I'll leave it more to him that he can explain it to you. And I just got to make sure his audio is well also. So let's bring him in, mate. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for having me, Grant.
Got you back in. Got you back again, mate. How's
Yeah,
been
glad to
going?
be here. Love these talks.
It's always good, interesting. What is it? Give people a bit of a background quickly on you when it comes to the fitness realm.
So I got ever since I was a kid, I played sports, primarily American football. So I grew up in the U.S. and from the age of about 10, 11 years old, I really got into competitive football. My parents put me into the youth teams. Then I went on to play for schools, and uh, fitness was part of sports in a sense, like the gym or running or anything that has to do what we look at as fitness today. That was like something we just had to do. Like our coaches made us do it. We did it so that we can continue playing sports, get better at it, be stronger, faster, jump higher, be healthier. Um, Fast forward to my college time, I tore my ACL. I was at the time studying computer science and electrical engineering while playing American football. And I tore my ACL, had surgery, and went into rehab. When I was doing my physios, I went into a gym and I said, "Hey, wait a minute! You guys do this? You guys work with clients and make them do exercises all day, and you get paid for it?" And they were like, "Yeah, and you get paid well." So at that point, I decided, you know what? I don't quite enjoy sitting on a computer and coding all day. Uh, Even though I thought I did before that in university life, it was like just sitting there coding away hours upon hours and just sitting hunched over. And my personality was more going outside, whether it be basketball, football. Football was like the primary sport, but we'd go outside into a park, onto a field, onto a court, just play pickup games all day long. That's what we enjoyed, right? And the gym started becoming part of life as well. So I decided to make a career change or and transferred out of computer science and enrolled into kinesiology at that point.
What made you think of
Uh,
kinesiology? And we've taken the long way around
so
too, boys. As you can tell, he's giving a full background.
yeah, the full background, like see, the reason behind it was because, like I said, the reason for my switch was getting inspired by my physio
hmm
for my rehabilitation for my knee. And at that point, it wasn't personal training; it was physiotherapy or physios. And to get into the doctorate program, you have to go through bachelor's in kinesiology.
Yep.
So I went into bachelor's of kinesiology, and then I realized it's too much school. I can just get certifications, start working with clients. I already had clients like part of practice at that time, working mostly with athletes.
You've kind of
So
gone a different
fast
road, haven't
forward,
you? You've gone a different way. Like you
yeah,
haven't seen the kind of personal. So you PTs, you heard about this, but you went onto another space where it's more in depth.
exactly, because the PT part was just getting into like too much anatomy, too much diagnostics, too much things like that. Again, I wanted to be around sports,
hmm
and they
That's the whole
were,
kind of point power.
exactly. So I was in my hometown. It was a small hometown, and even after high school and everything, we were connected with the coaches, with our team coaches for football, and a lot of the younger kids that were coming up, they were training. We had a weight room in the high school. We had a strength and conditioning coach. I remember best I've ever worked with. He for strength and he's a powerlifting coach, and from there I started working with the kids, helping out, started making money off of it privately, and then
Okay,
I
I'm
said,
going to try
"Hey,
and divert you
this is
back a
what I."
bit, mate. You got to go on a whole other tangent, but it is nice to find about that. But what is something that with the trainers that you see in the gyms? What was something you pulled off from them? Like, what were you seeing in the facilities from trainers that was like, okay, I can do that, or I can't do that, or I like that, I don't like that.
At the time, it wasn't trainers in a commercial gym; it was trainers in a sports facility,
Yeah.
and it was the motivation and inspiration that we saw the way they coached.
Mm-hmm.
They were helping people become better versions of themselves.
Okay.
So that inspired me. I said, "Hey, I want to be able to do that. I want to help somebody get better at their sport."
Yeah.
That was the initial pull for me.
And what were some of the things they
Then
were doing? Like, it's all good, well and good, but it's very general. So what were they doing on a daily basis? Like, you're inspired, which is cool, but what exactly were they doing for you?
pushing people to push harder in the gym. It was really helping people get their PRs, different motivation techniques, whether it be talking to somebody calmly, explaining to them to straight out screaming in their face to do it, guiding them through their eating habits,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that they were getting the proper nutrition. These things were the initial
You were
ones. Then I
noticing
had to
these
actually do
things.
it. Yeah, I was noticing these things. It was part of it because we were there every day.
Were you interacting a lot with the coach and trainers, were you?
Of course, yes. At the time,
So this
talking
is
to them.
an
Hey,
internship?
this was initially in the weight room for sports, but then I had to do an internship. Yes, for as
Okay.
part of my university program,
Mm-hmm.
I had to do an internship at this place called NAC, Newtown Athletic Club,
Mm-hmm.
and there a lot of the coaches basically guided us into what type of certifications to get, what we deal with clients, how to interact with clients, what's professional, what's not. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the things that I was told, I saw the opposite of that in this industry moving forward.
Interesting.
For
So,
example,
like, what were
I'm
they
going to give
doing?
you,
What were the good things? You're talking about good things they're doing, and they're doing some motivational techniques, like for nutrition, but they're still very quite general. What were the kind of the during the session the things that we're doing as a
so attentive, so attentive to what their
mm,
client was doing.
mm-hmm,
Everything else was quite blocked off. Everything else was a side thing at that time.
mm-hmm,
They were fully focused on every little movement detail, every rep. They weren't just standing there counting reps for them.
mm-hmm,
They were modifying, you know, different angles of the joint, like, hey, move your elbow up, move your elbow down, pull, retract your shoulder blades, protract your shoulder, like little things like that. At doing the internships, these trainers I saw doing things like this,
mm,
right? Correcting movement.
that's awesome.
And that at that point I didn't understand how they were even picking it up. Like I didn't see anything wrong with it.
How they're picking up? What do you mean?
Like how did they know that it was off? Like I'm studying this stuff, I'm going through anatomy, I've
Or
been
how are they
working out.
identifying the issues with the client? You
How
mean?
they identifying the
Ah,
issues
yeah,
exactly.
paying
So
attention.
later on,
Okay, so what then? You after this, you had this pretty ideal experience to begin with. That got you into the industry, and then you start. You said you just said before you started seeing other things creeping in or other habits. What were those?
so after that, anytime I would go into a gym, of course, you know how you kind of recognize something that you're focused on, you start seeing it everywhere. Like
Mm-hmm.
anytime I'm in any gym, watching what the trainer is doing, I'm kind of seeing how they're working. What I noticed was at some places, people on their phones, people simply just counting reps, people talking to other people while their client is engaged, and these type of things. I was like, no, I don't want to be that type of trainer.
What are you seeing when you see that? When you say that, because
Unprofessional.
you're like you don't want to be that type of trainer. What effect do you think it
I'm
has on
sorry.
the client or the session?
I think the client can recognize the fact that you're not fully invested in them.
Mm-hmm.
They they want value, and they don't see value in somebody who's just You can compare that to any career, I think.
You could also argue there's a lot of careers where people do talk to people during work, and there's people that do look at their phones during work as well. So that's what
True.
I'm asking
Nice
you,
time
like
and
from your
place.
perspective. Like, what is it for you? Like, you talk about value. Value for people is different. Some people just want the
Hmm.
social interaction. Some people like that, and some people accept that fact that, yeah, if you're social with me, then you'll probably be social with other people. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So for them, they may actually value that side of things. Or if they're on the phone, now I understand what you're talking about. You're talking about like taking phone calls, sending text messages, and stuff like that. Um, but if it's to deal with software programming and stuff like, it's slightly different unless you're really
Hmm.
seen it. I'm just saying the flip side, by the way, just showing there's two sides
Hmm.
of the coin when you talk about these things and getting it from your perspective. What do you think? What perspective are you looking at this from?
Like, so if you think about having a customer or a client in any situation,
Mm-hmm.
you're selling a product,
Mm-hmm.
any product, and the customer to ask you questions or interacting with you.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you were to, instead of having eye contact
Mm-hmm.
and speaking to them and explaining to them, you were to look away and look at your phone, or while they're talking to you, you turn your head and start talking to somebody else
Mm-hmm.
in the middle. How would they feel? Right? In
Mm-hmm.
customer service, in any situation, that wouldn't reflect very good manners or very professional.
So,
It
what
doesn't
kind of
show professionalism.
situations, in your opinion, what are these situations? Because there are situations
These,
where, yeah, you are going to turn away and have to talk to someone.
oh, maybe the situations where you have to do that, maybe wait until your client has completed their set, do it in the
Mm-hmm.
break time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have to explain anything to them. Or maybe if it's a safety concern, you're helping somebody and you see somebody failing a rep and you have to help them right next to it. That's an understandable situation.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're getting a emergency call.
Mm-hmm.
You can politely excuse yourself. Excuse me, I have to take this. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that. But that's not the those are not the cases I'm talking about. I'm talking about
This is what we
uh,
want to understand, right? So this is the thing. You're
those
talking
ones we
about you can't
understand.
be
Yeah.
so generalized because there is different situations, and people that are going to be listening to
Hmm.
this will be thinking, "Oh, but what about when this particular thing happens?" So this is what we want to
Exactly.
identify as first. It's like, yeah, ideally you want if you're during a session, put your phone down or not have your phone on you. Then there's no risk of taking a call, no risk of having a look at the WhatsApp, like prevent it from happening. If you're going to block it out, like you're saying, block it out. So yeah, there's no chance of me looking and viewing and messaging calls or WhatsApps or whatever you want to call them as well. But again,
Yeah, true.
yeah. What about from the
I just wanted to
situation?
add to that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add to that that I know certain people, some very good trainers, some very professional trainers that use their phones to note things instead of a notepad.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they won't do it during the set. They'll note it down after, oh, you completed that rep, or your RP was this, or
Mm-hmm.
anything, or they have a workout plan on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
And the client knows that. The client has an understanding. Hey, my trainer every single time shows me the plan or is taking notes on his phone. He's not ignoring me. He's actually doing this for me. That's a different scenario, in my
Totally.
opinion.
Now I throw a curveball at you. Someone who's outside looking at you training your client and you're on your phone typing in about a workout. Do they know you're typing in a workout or does it look like you're texting a message?
Uh, you could tell if the person interacting with the client while doing it or explaining it to them and they're consistently using it after the sets. If your client is lifting and you're not watching them, especially if they're there to get coached on movements, that's not the time to note anything.
Hmm.
Any good coach will know that, even the ones noting it down. That's when they're watching to figure out what they're going to write down.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking away, if your body language is different, that's gonna it'll be a dead giveaway.
I'd say from my side, I think it's just better for trainers if they can to avoid using phones during a session, to avoid the misconception of you're on the phone texting, you're on the phone with something else. And at the end of the day, for a lot of trainers out there, these are bad habits that trainers have. The issue being is, yeah, they will type in or they will start by inputting the weights, the sets, some notes into their phone. But then you also run the risk of you do get a message, you do get a phone call, and then you're tempted to answer it or reply to it,
Yeah.
which is where the issues can come in as well. And I'm not saying it's the end of the world, it's the worst thing. I'm saying as a professional during your time, just like you are in an office, you'd be expected to put the focus into the work. Now, if your work
Hmm.
evolves around a phone, fair enough. Personal training, 99.9% of the time, does not evolve around your phone.
Hmm.
And if you're using software, as from a professional point of view, like an iPad would just seem better. If you can use an iPad to put your inputs in, then use that. Or a computer.
Yeah.
And computer looks super professional. A lot of top trainers these days actually prefer to use the computer because these applications or these softwares are better user friendly. And again, it does avoid anything as far as taking calls, replying messages, getting emails. Everything's on your phone. So, just saying, as a point of view. So that's a good point you've brought up, man. What about from a point of view when you talk about focus? Like, there is one point where it is too much. It's over the top. The trainer's coming in going like, oh yeah, ta, 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 ta. And they're trying to move this person rigidly through an execution of an exercise. Is there such thing as
So
too much focus for you?
I don't think so. I think there can be too many instructions at once, like giving too many cues all at once, where the client is like, which one do I follow?
Mm-hmm.
He's saying this. That might be a bad thing, but I think focus, if you're 100% focused on the job, you might think about, okay, which one do I want to correct immediately? Which ones do I want to wait for after the set to talk about? Which one do I don't want to even bother at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
It's not important. This will be later on in the journey, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe next session, or maybe they, more down the program, we'll
Mm-hmm.
work on this part.
Mm-hmm.
What is my primary concern right now, and what are the other things that we can perfect the movement. So I don't think the focus, you can have too much focus in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
but I think you can have too many cues. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Good point. I think it's one of those things again where you see from you got to think from 2 points. One is your first priority is the client. So whatever you deliver to the client is what you get your reputation built on, because they're the ones that have that face value. They're the ones that interact with you on a daily basis, not the people away from you, or the ones looking at you during the session. And let's be honest, people do look at people during sessions. They judge the client,
Hmm.
they judge the trainer, they judge each other for whatever reasons, and they kind of gauge themselves as a value in comparison. With a lot of people saying, oh, I'm better than that. I can do a better job. I can do this. But you don't know the value. But anyway,
Hmm.
okay. So let's stick in with the crux of this topic, the bad habits to avoid as a trainer. What are they for you? What are the other ones? The phone, we understand the phone. Cool. Focus is actually a good thing. It's not a bad habit. What's some other bad habits you've seen that trainers should look to avoid?
Not being on time,
Mm-hmm.
or not being prepared for a session.
Okay,
That's one
that's
of
two
them.
different things. Let's stay with one of them. How do you
So
avoid that habit?
be on time. Plan ahead, plan your
That's
schedule,
really easy
have
to
better
say,
time
but how many
management
times
skills.
say that and how many people are actually on time?
Honestly, people who care about time management, who take their time management seriously,
Mm-hmm.
are most of the time on time. Like, unless there is some sort of a unforeseen circumstance,
Mm-hmm.
like if you have to be at a session, for example, if you're not working in a gym and you have to go meet your client,
Mm-hmm.
if you plan to get there 15 minutes early, even if you hit a little bit of traffic, you'll probably get there on time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you plan to get there 15 minutes late, and then you hit traffic, your session is pretty much finished because you're getting there so late,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's just the way you plan about your day. The other thing is correct planning. If you
Mm-hmm.
take, you know, one session on one side of town and another session on the opposite side of town, back to back, and leave just enough time for traffic-free driving or metro or anything like that, and you run into some sort of hurdle, you miss the bus or you miss the metro, or you there's a traffic accident or something like that, you're going to be likely late
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
What would be for
But
you
if you
top
get
three? Top three
top three
things
is
to
planning.
avoiding being late.
Plan ahead.
Okay.
Set your schedule correctly. Number one. Number two,
What's
always
correct
give
schedule,
yourself
by the way?
something that you can manage.
But
I guess
that's
that's a
subject. That's very
wrong
subjective.
choice.
That's what you're saying. It's so
I,
subjective what you're saying right now. So
I
it's
don't
like,
think
what's a practical application for someone?
I think I had the wrong choice of word saying correct schedule.
Hmm.
I think a better choice of word would be have an an effective and efficient schedule that you can manage.
Mm-hmm.
That's good for you, right? So a correct schedule for me might not be a correct schedule for you. You're
What's an
right.
effective and
That is
efficient?
something that you will be able to do without running into hurdles
Mm-hmm.
and without getting stressed out about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I take on too many things, if I bite off more than I can chew, then I'm most likely going to get in trouble. So evaluate, hey, can I actually fit this into my schedule, or would I be reaching by doing this? So planning, everybody knows themselves and knows how well they can stick to it,
See, I'm
right?
going to argue that point because that is in my place. That's why people stuff things up. Everyone says, and everyone
Hmm.
knows how to plan. Everyone says, okay, do this and you plan. But the problem is, most of us don't do that. Excuse
Hmm.
me. And that's actually become the biggest issue. So when you talk about things to help you avoid, in this case, being late, planning,
Hmm.
yeah, plans can go out the window all the time. So it's about more so about knowing what to do when things go wrong.
Hmm.
It's actually about, okay, so things are going to come up. What is your process for dealing with it? Have a plan in place, if you're going to say plan, to look to avoid. So, for example, if you talk about, okay, yes, you've got a client on one side of town and a client on the other side of town. No problem. If you haven't driven there before, then post time, then yeah, you should give yourself actually probably about 30 minutes more to arrive at that space especially the first time. And then the second, third time, you'll start to understand the timings you require to be there within sufficient time. I think
Sure.
people practically need to put the work in. Experience helps in any situation, especially when it becomes new. So if you're looking to avoid times, then yeah. The other side of when you talk about times, there's also before or so when people have a certain session, the biggest reason they run late is because their other session runs over time. It's not
Hmm.
because they're not there, it's because they're there, but they're still running through the session. So time
Hmm.
management of those, and that's kind of part of the skill set people need to learn, or habits people need to pick up. Is it's okay to finish your session 5 minutes beforehand. Too many trainers are stuck on this 1 hour exact specific minute seconds thing going on. It's got to be 1 hour from 5 till 6. And if I finish at 5:58, I'm going to be in trouble for my client. No, you need to establish parameters that you can potentially start within 0 to 5 minutes and finish 0 to 5 minutes as well. In fact, a session could even be 45 minutes long. It doesn't have to be this 1 hour. It depends on the outcome, it depends on your execution, it depends how you roll through things when it comes to the session. So yes, avoiding being late, there's actually other ways to avoid being late, and that's how you can set yourself. It's like when you're trying to wake up early in the morning, it's not about what time you wake up, it's about time you go to bed. That's what it's
Hmm.
actually about. Same with the session. It's about how you prep to make sure that you're there on time. And there's also this thing with meetings. Everyone's got the same thing about meetings. That's always got to be an hour. It doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 5, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Why are we always blocking out an hour? Anyway, so if you're talking about like with you, we're saying with time management, it comes down to how you finish things off before. So if you're going for a run, then you know that, okay, finish by X amount of time, so you've got 45 minutes after to get changed, to drive to, or whatever. Do things like yourself, like
Yeah.
you said, give yourself that buffer, that 15, 20, 10, 30 minute, whatever is comfortable for you. And I think on top of that, it's also about utilizing that time as well. So if you're going to be there 15 minutes early, instead of just sitting around waiting, you can actually use this time to schedule. You can use this time to write programs. You can use this time for something else, post, video, something or other. So it's not about just getting there early and then not having the time to do something else. It's actually getting there early and doing the work, on top of that. So it's just a little
Yeah,
bit of detail.
utilize it for something else. Yeah.
Yeah, which will still allow you to be there on time and then run through the session. And then, be frank with people up front when you first meet with them. Say, you do finish these sessions 5 minutes before time, right? We're going to fit these sessions into a 50-minute block, or 55 minutes, 50 to 55 minutes. That's how long they usually are. And that's where your training should be as well. So be a bit more smart with your training.
I've never had any client ever ask me. They always ask me in the beginning when I'm first, going through the packages and doing the pitch. They're like, how long are the sessions?
Mm.
And right from there, we have this conversation, and we say however long it takes. It can last anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. And as we progress through the program, what I've noticed is average, I would say, 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the session runs. Nobody's once said, "Hey, Amar, my session's supposed to be 1 hour. I paid for 1 hour, so why are we leaving 10 minutes early?" Not one person has ever brought it up or
Yeah.
thought about it. Or majority of the time, they want to run because they're tired.
Yeah.
Or
There's other ways to deal with it too. Like you can say, yeah, come in, people are doing their warm-up, 7 to 10 minute warm-ups or their runs before. Cool, I'll meet them on the treadmill before the actual workout session plan starts. So we're going to focus on more technique. We're not going to worry about the warm-up. I don't need to stand beside a treadmill. I know during courses, some people do advise that, during the warm-up, your time to connect, time to find out what's going on. And that's absolutely true. But you can do this in a short amount of time between that 60, 90 seconds as you're walking from one space to another, and you can look to adapt from there. How are they feeling? Any injuries, any body, emotional things going on as well. So you can actually do that in a short amount of time. You don't need to spend it during the 7 to 10 minute warm-up phase.
Mhm.
And same at the end as well. For those ones that do want longer sessions, the cool down, the stretching, unless they want those stretches, they can be done by themselves as well post training, I suppose, with you, so you can maximize that time. Yeah, I mean,
some people want to just do a little walk or jog afterwards, and they usually ask,
Yeah,
"Is that cool?" And like, yeah, go. I'd be
totally.
happy. Get more activity and no problem. It's not going to affect you. Go.
Actually, here's
Uh,
one. A good habit, and I know a lot of trainers do not do this, and it's funny because during COVID it didn't happen, but a trainer that I knew back in Auckland, he would always wash his hands after each session. So he had a 5 minute gap between when he finished and when he started the next one, and during that time he would go down, wash his hands, come back before he started the next client. He's the only person I've
I
ever
don't think
known to
I've
do
ever
that.
thought about it.
Neither did
I
I.
don't think I've
I
ever
thought at
thought
the time.
about that.
He told me, I was like, oh, that's such a great idea. Anyway, so that's a good habit you can add in. Bad habit, probably one of those common ones, is coffee drinking during the session. What are your thoughts?
I think water is the limit.
Water is the limit.
Realistically, unless you're like really packed, and again during that time when the client is doing warm up, you can go have a protein shake. I understand sometimes trainers have back to back 5 hours booked,
Mm-hmm.
so that warm up time, utilize that time. Do the initial greeting. They're doing their warm up. They know what they're doing. Go grab a protein shake to drink a coffee real fast, out of the way, out of the floor, on the side. Come back, hop back in. I don't think it's that. I don't. I just think it shouldn't be on the floor while training. I think water. I I have a lot of people even say don't drink water, but I think water is important. You should have water, of course.
But what's the difference between water and coffee? Or
Water is
smoothie?
part of your hydration. It's also setting an example to your client to stay hydrated. How easily you can stay hydrated while you're working. So sip
Well,
on
you
water,
could
put
just
the
as
bottle
easily
down.
have a coffee. Stay energized.
How? I
Same way
don't
you
think
drink your water.
you could, but coffee usually doesn't come in, sports bottles. Doesn't look as cool on the.
This is a
What do
really
you think?
interesting way to look at it because people do discuss that or think about the difference. Oh, one's coffee, one's water. There is zero difference. They're both liquids, and at the end of the day, you're still drinking a beverage, whether it be a
Hmm.
smoothie, a coffee, or water. It makes zero difference because the problem people have, they say, is when you're holding that coffee, you're just holding it and you're not assisting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you could be holding water too and not assisting. Holding your smoothie and not assisting. You could just as easily drink your coffee in the same manner you drink water. You pick it up, you have a sip, you put it back down, and it's done between sets, potentially. And it's done quickly. Or going back to your point, you could plan to have a 15-minute break in your day to make sure you can just sit down, relax, drink, eat coffee, and then move on from there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting topic from my point of view to think of it, that people do distinguish coffee being different from water or smoothies.
Yeah, I don't know. Majority of the places that I've had experience with, I guess it's like my own experience is they've always allowed water. It's like we've always been told water is cool, and I
Which I understand,
honestly,
because hydrate, you want to stay hydrated.
I just
Brilliant.
I
But
need.
there's no reason not to stay hydrated between the sessions also. You don't need to drink every 5 minutes during a session.
Yeah,
You can drink
that,
after a session. It takes 60 seconds to take a sip of water or a mouthful of
mhm,
water. That is well hydrated. Every hour at the end of each session, have some water, you'll stay well hydrated. You know what I mean?
that is true.
Or coffee. That's the same thing. You start a session. I don't believe you should be having coffee or stuff like that. That's just my opinion. And more so from the fact of it's a bad habit, and it always comes down to excuses of trainers like, oh, yeah, I've got back-to-back clients. Again, it's like your point. It's because you're not managing the time correctly, or you're thinking you've got to put in the 60 minutes. It is better for you, if you're thinking about building a better brand, to put 50 to 55 minutes, let's just say 50 minutes, 50 minutes of fully focused training into your client that'll maximize return, feedback, output, and outcome in 50 minutes. Have a 10-minute break and then do it again for the next client. Instead of sitting there for 1 hour trying to sip, trying to do this, trying to do that at the same time, which is perceived by people from the outside looking at you going like, oh, well, they're not paying focus to your client. So I'm not going to go and pay money for you if you're going to focus on something else. The perception is what I'm talking about here. It's just you can manage this much better so that at the end of the day, your value is in how you deliver, not necessarily what you deliver. You had a very serious look on your face there, Amar. I think you might have frozen, mate. You might jump back on in a second. But that's something really interesting to think about, is that when you are having something in your hand, like the phone, you may have the right reasons. You may be one of these people that is genuinely not texting, not replying, not messaging, not social media, and you are simply there to input things for your client, which is great, which is perfect, but perception from the people around you can come across very different. One of the biggest things when it comes to your phone also is the social media side. A lot of people are taking videos to showcase their training or their client. Now, again, it's up to you how you want to do it and why you think you should do it, 100%. I think it's just got to be a point of not to overload. Like if you were there to capture some video, ideally a friend could do it, and it should be of them taking pictures of you with your client or video of you with your client. That's what you could be mixing in, because that's what your value stands as a trainer. So instead of you sitting there with your phone wrapping around your client, have a friend just quickly take video for you, spend a few minutes doing that, and halas. So you can remain focused, and then it's going to showcase you as your trainer, potentially your teaching methods, and how you deal with clients. I think Amar's actually kind of left us, which is a shame, but that's okay. Things happen, not a problem. There are many other habits that we actually haven't got into, and so no problem. Put your comments in the comment section. Let us know about those, what you think, what are your opinions on what are good and bad habits that are okay to have. But these are the main ones. Avoid the phone if you can. Use a computer, use a tablet, or use old-fashioned pen and paper. Drinks and waters. Look, ideally, have that between your sessions. And then it brings on to the third point. Space your time out. Give yourself a break between each session so you can quickly take something down, so you can have a drink or coffee if it needs be, or plan your day better. So wake up 10 minutes earlier so you can have that coffee if that's something you need, have that food, pack that lunch, make sure you're on time. 10 minutes early will make a massive difference in your career because it's all about discipline. And if you have the discipline, you'll be able to instill discipline onto your clients. That's what they need. They need discipline, and so do we as trainers. So stick to that, and you'll be all good.